Business Growth Talks podcast is created and hosted by Mark Hayward. In this show, we talk about how to grow a business in the growth stage. The growth stage is often marked by rapid developments, increased revenue, and an escalating customer base. In each episode, we talk to entrepreneurs and business owners who have grown businesses, and we cover topics like scaling processes, market expansion, financial management, human resource and talent development, and customer retention. If you are looking for actionable advice, tips, and techniques on how to grow, run and build your business, this is the podcast for you.
Today we have Adam Adams, who was previously an investor in apartments, known as the AAA, which is impressive. He has educated thousands of investors through real estate conferences, radio, and podcast interviews, and has a coaching program. Adam now runs the Grow Your Show, which is a podcast production company where he helps people grow their business. He helps clients launch, grow, monetize, and inspire with podcasting. The strapline is you press record and we handle the rest of it, which I absolutely love. Adam is also a podcast host, which is called The Podcast on Podcasting, with currently about 370 episodes and 51 million podcast listeners. Adam currently lives in Denver, but he's just told me that he's doing a lot of traveling at the moment. So welcome to the show. And just before we go into the interview, if you are enjoying this show and this subject, please do subscribe to the podcast on all platforms so you don't miss an episode. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's good to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure speaking to you. So we actually met at the podcast movement, which was in Denver a few weeks ago. And after speaking to you, I just thought we need you on my show. So thankfully, we've been able to arrange it. The first question that I always ask is, what does a business mindset mean to you?
Yeah, I love that. And I'm guessing that if I listen to a lot of your episodes, I'm guessing that 40% of everybody would say what I'm about to say, but It is true. Right. A business mindset, honestly, is the difference between a hobby and a business. It's a difference between having fun, enjoying it, and just wanting to put something out versus intending on monetizing. And even I would say that there's a lot of people that want that monetization, but they want it later. They don't want to focus on it. And because of that, it probably fails. It probably normally will fail because that's not a true business mindset. That's a hobby mindset, thinking that maybe you'll get the business out of it. So business mindset is going to be focused on the serving people and growing as revenue, not just having fun.
Actually, it's not as common as you would think. A lot of people, that whole idea of that hobby business that you might not necessarily need, but you need to do something, and therefore people start that. And a lot of people that I have on my show are sort of usually serial entrepreneurs that either have started a business or sold or run multiple businesses, or even that their passion is this business that they've created. But I think it's a really good distinction and a really, really clever way of describing it, that you have to grow. And this is what this show is going to be more and more about, is about growing businesses and how to do that successfully. So most of my audience are entrepreneurs and business owners, and I'm hoping to add massive value with giving hints, tips, strategies, whatever the guest wants to share. But I think it's a really good distinction that you've given me there. Next question is, tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
I've only talked about this on one other podcast ever. And
okay, so number 2.
If I start crying, I'm already sorry. I'll tell you, the truth is I grew up very poor. My mom, being a single mom, she left my biological father, who was in plural marriage, and she didn't want any part of that anymore. And so she left. And so we grew up incredibly poor. She got married when she was 19. We didn't have a car. We walked everywhere. And I didn't have a dad or a role model for most of my life. And so honestly, what ended up happening is in grade school, especially in kindergarten, I don't know, do they have that everywhere around the world? They definitely have it here in the US.
Yeah.
But kindergarten, I was smaller than a lot of the other kids. I felt insignificant. I felt poor. I didn't have all of the right words to talk about, and I got made fun of a lot. So here's the thing that I really think made a humongous impact on me in a good/bad way. And it's because I got picked on so much being the little guy or the weird guy or the poor person in the school that I got a chip on my shoulder. I always felt like I had to prove myself to people. I always felt like I had to do so much more than somebody with normal confidence, because then I could show them. And so I ended up focusing on business and measuring my success against them in a financial way. So I remember being in college and making the same amount per month as most people made per year.
Okay.
And it's just because I had a chip on my shoulder. I needed to prove something.
Yeah.
And that mindset has always stayed with me. The growth has always stayed with me. I'm just now, over the last few years, since 2018, been starting to try to practice not doing it for show, but just doing it for me and my kids and not having to prove anything anymore. But that has been always a huge thing for me, for sports, for business, and everything in between.
So it was your fuel in essence. And
exactly.
It drove you forward. I'm glad that you've come to peace with it a little bit. And because so I was bullied. I went to a selective school in the UK. We were okay. We weren't rich, but we could get by. But I went to a school outside of the catchment area in a selective school, and I got bullied because I was deemed poor. Now, we were never poor, but like in comparison to a very middle class area, upper middle class area, we were. And for me, the 20s, the early 20s anyway, I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go, how to do it. And it took till about 26, 27, where I got a corporate job. I worked in corporate for 12 years before I started running my businesses and real estate stuff that I've got set up now. And it sounds like you took that fuel very early on. It took me a while because I just got lost after university, after college. I just really wasn't sure where I was supposed to be, what I was supposed to do. And my dad was in corporate. And so he sat me down. He said, you've been traveling, you've been to university, you've done a few jobs here and there. No, I worked for central government as contract. It was all good stuff, but I was lost. And my dad sat me down and he said, you need to sort this out now. I was like, right. He's like, just get a job in a corporate. You'll have a career ladder. You'll have a progression and you can build something from there. Where you end up is a different matter. But you need to focus. And his suggestion, and for 12, 13 years, it was a really productive career. But I understand that because it was once my dad sat me down, I was suddenly like, I'm now behind everybody else who started at 21. And so for me, it was a real eye opener to actually go, right, I've now got to catch up. I've now got to, like, where people in corporates, you might take a year or two each promotion. I was like, every year I'm getting promoted, and it sometimes happened, sometimes it didn't happen. But the next year I was like, right, I'm going to get promoted next year. And it was just this constant, and actually it's not healthy in some ways, that constant drive and never stopping and smelling the roses, or what we say over here. But I get that fuel. I get that idea that you've been knocked down and you need to prove to yourself just as much as everyone else. Sometimes it's to prove to yourself as well. So we've gone deep very early on, but thank you for that. I appreciate your honesty. But yeah, I totally get that idea of that fuel. It equally took me some elements of therapy to actually come to terms with.
Same.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
To come to terms with actually being happy with yourself, that you're enough.
Yep. Lots of therapy. And honestly, I will suggest that to anyone, because I didn't even think that I needed it or wanted it. I just was like, well, I got some money and I got some time and I really just want to be my best version of myself. So I just started taking therapy, and honestly, just the whole time I didn't think I needed it. The whole time I was just like, but then the therapist would ask questions like, well, Where do you think that came from? And it is interesting because after months and months of seeing him every week,
Yeah.
I started to learn a lot about myself. And that's why I am now how I am. And I've changed in a lot of ways. And it's because of that. I never thought I needed it, but I just did it anyways, just to be the best version. And I learned some cool things about myself.
And I found personally, I could be deeply empathetic with other people. I could really get to feel what they were feeling, but I never gave myself a break. I never was empathetic to myself. And so that sort of self-discovery for me was that I'm all right. And I get asked sometimes as a podcast guest or sometimes in a networking situation or mastermind or something, what would you tell your younger self? And I always say, it's going to be all right. You're going to be okay. And I think for so long, I didn't think I was going to be okay, that actually through therapy and just understanding myself, like that actually, just be patient, just wait. You'll get there. You'll get to where you want to be and it will be all right. So for me, that was my biggest hurdle, was giving myself a break and just letting myself stop, zoom out, see what I've got. I've got a wonderful family. I've got lovely kids. I've got a lovely house, and I'm very lucky where I am. But it took me a long time to actually get to the point where I was actually like, "You're all right. Just be patient with yourself. You'll be fine." So yeah, I totally get that. Totally get that, Adam. Right, you threw me a curveball to say that you had retired for a couple of years, and we will come on to that. But I want to first of all focus. We're not going to talk about real estate. We have other people that have talked about real estate. I want to focus on your business, which is Grow Your Show, where you help people grow their podcast. And as I said, the strap line is absolutely wonderful. Grow, monetize, and inspire. Launch, grow, monetize, and inspire. I love that. So who do you help? Who are the people that you help?
The main best client is going to be this guy named Corey Peterson. When I launched my company, it was July of 19. I had just sold a podcast, and I had just sold a whole bunch of real estate that I had, and I was switching focus. And my focus went into just serving podcasters. And when I was determining who I would serve, I feel like all of us need to do this if we have a show or if we have a business. We need to identify our perfect avatar. So Corey Peterson became mine. And so for him, he's a coach, he's a mentor, he's a real estate professional, but he teaches and coaches and mentors. He runs a mastermind. Right. So he makes several $1 million a year, and it comes through 3 or 4 different avenues. Yeah. He's got a family. He loves the outdoors. So he's got a huge built up Jeep. So do I. He and I go Jeeping all the time. And so he's really ultimately, if you extrapolate him to every other type of person, who is that? They're going to have kids. They're going to be a man. They're going to be a business owner. They're going to be highly successful, usually netting at least $1 million a year, knowing that they need to get in front of more people, but don't know how to do it on their own. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to figure it out. They don't want to learn it on their own. Yeah. So they're willing to pay a premium, a higher price, to have somebody take over all of the other stuff. You mentioned in the beginning, press, record, we handle the rest. And that was our tagline for a long time, until somebody said, "Hey, I have a similar tagline. I want you to change it." So we got a trademark. Press, it's now the easy button for podcasters. So it's about the same. Press, record, we handle the rest, the easy button for podcasters. Yeah. Ultimately, we charge a premium to support somebody at every level. The only thing they have to do is record their podcast. Everything else is done by us. So it'll go up into the cloud. We will edit it. We produce it. We'll add the music. We will publish it. We'll promote it. We'll put it on their social media. We'll email their guest all of the stuff that they need so that they can share it. And additionally, we will do paid advertising. So their podcast will grow in the top 1% in the world without them doing anything but pressing record, because we handle all of that other back end stuff. So my perfect client, Corey Peterson. It doesn't mean we don't serve women. It doesn't mean that we don't serve somebody who doesn't fit that exactly. But our perfect client is probably somebody who's making $1 million or more and just wants it to be handled and know that it's going to be done well.
We'll be back after a quick break.
If you're an online business owner and you want to learn what's working right now to generate leads, grow your following, and get paying clients and customers, then be sure to check out the Digital Trailblazer podcast. Each week, we feature online business owners just like you who are launching and scaling their businesses, and we reveal exactly what they're doing to rise above the competition to build a successful, profitable online business. And what's really unique about the Digital Trailblazer podcast is that you're going to learn these strategies directly from the business owners who are putting them into action and getting results. So head over to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, or just head over to digitaltrailblazer.com for links to all of our episodes.
I think that's great. I think that's absolutely fantastic. From my podcast agency, we went through a similar sort of avatar sort of style. We didn't actually name him. It was a him actually as well, but we helped men, women of all brands and all varieties. But I think that is a really important thing. And I think to make it as easy as you can for the podcaster, I think is an incredible service that you provide. How many employees do you have currently? Yeah,
we just let 5 go. So we're down to 32. We were at 37 for a long time. And revenue changed. And so we let just a small handful go to make sure that we were keeping everything tight, because labor is expensive. A lot of people don't realize that, but 5 employees makes a humongous difference to a bottom line. And if we didn't need them, unfortunately, we let them go. So we're at 32.
Remote workers? Sorry to interrupt. Are they remote workers?
100% of them are in the Philippines. 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you retain the best of your talent?
That is a lovely question. I love it because I have a good answer. So we vet them in a few different ways. That's important. And one of the biggest ones is something called predictive index. A lot of people have heard of personality tests. They may have heard of DISC. It's a very popular one. Yep. There's a culture index, and there's about a dozen more. Predictive index happens to be the only one that you can legally, write that down, legally hire and fire. Okay. Some people have their employees and potential employees take personality tests to help them decide. They could literally get in trouble because it's not legal to make those decisions with most of these, because most of them aren't accurate enough. Right. Predictive index is the only one. And that's helped us to be able to help to retain employees. Right. We vet them based on their culture, their personality, and also what experience they have. Yeah. So with the culture, it means that I want them to have the same values that I have. I have certain values. Now, if you think about it, all of the values, let's just say that there's 20 of them. I think it's right to do the right thing even when it hurts you. I think it's good to be honest. I think it's good to be kind. Yeah. Sometimes you can't always be honest and kind. Sometimes it's challenging. One's going to trump the other. Yeah. It's more important to me to be honest, or it's more important to me to be kind. It's more important for me to make people happy, or it's more important to me to XYZ. There's 20-ish values. Yeah. And our company takes 3 of them and puts them at the very top. And I want to make sure that all of our people have the same values and are putting those 3 at the very top. If they put a different one above, for example, telling the truth or being kind, both are good, but sometimes they don't fit with each other. I want to make sure that whichever one we agree on, that's the same one that all of the people that are on our team also agree on, because that makes a huge difference if they're going to stay with us. Yeah. And the predictive index, this is an interesting thing, especially, nowadays, people want to make money. Not everybody has a job in multiple different countries. Not everybody has a job. And a lot of the times, you know how when you went to corporate, it was fine. You got promoted. But at the end of the day, you're an entrepreneur. Your personality wasn't meant for working for somebody else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, sure, maybe you got it to be 12 or 13 years. Most people aren't going to last 3 months if it doesn't fit their personality. So what ends up happening is somebody needs a job. Somebody needs money to come in. They're smart enough. They're capable enough. They can do the thing, but they don't love the thing. We make sure that all of our employees have a personality profile that fits the job role that they're being put into so that they can stay for the long term, because that's what they actually enjoy. For example, I'm smart enough to be your assistant. I could probably figure out all these things, but it would drive me effing bonkers. I might be able to do it for a week. I might be able to do it for 3 months. If I was really struggling for money, I could pretend, I could put myself in that role for a short time because I have the capabilities. But my personality wants to build its own thing. My personality wants to have its own thing. My personality wants to dictate to other people what I need them to do. And I don't want to be held accountable to a boss. And so it wouldn't last long. Even though I could technically pass everything and get there, I would only be with you for a max of 3 months. I couldn't handle it more than that. And that's the same thing with our team. We make sure that it's fitting their personality profile so that they can stay with us for a long time. And if there was a third thing, it'd just be that I treat everybody like family. I truly love them. I truly care about them. I truly respect them. And I'm supportive of them. I put them first. And if I didn't, I don't think that they would stay for very long. So most of our employees have been with us since the beginning. I have a couple of virtual assistants that have been with me for 6 or 7 years now, ever since they first started. And out of the other 32 that I have now, I would say most of them have been with us more than 2 years. So,
right.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, my strapline when I started this podcast 5.5 years while I was still in corporate was that I was a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. And actually, I foretold my future without even realizing it, that the entrepreneurial stuff would come more and more. But I wanted to ask you about your employees. Are your employees entrepreneurial, or are they, if I say career focused, job focused on what they're doing for you now?
They're more job focused. A couple of them have small businesses where that person and their significant other might bake bread and sell it during the day. Right. So my employees are about 12 or 14 hours different from my time zone.
Yeah.
And most of them, they work Eastern Standard Time. They work US hours.
Yeah.
And in their hours, they might have a second thing where one of them cooks the bread and the other one delivers it, or vice versa. But other than the fact that they might have a business, almost all of them are more suited for wanting to support somebody else's dream. Yeah. And I couldn't do that, but they're the people that we hire. We make sure that's part of their personality.
I think that's a very sensible idea, or they'll start their own business. And
you would have never gotten hired, Mark. You're capable, you're smart, but you would have never gotten hired.
Right. So this podcast is about business growth, but you've absolutely, totally brilliant. I really want to hear this story, but you threw me a curveball to say that you had retired for about 1.5 years. So I really want to delve into that. And we will come to the business growth stuff in a minute, but what made you want to retire? You had a business which was growing, you'd started it, and you had your team and everything. What made you say at your young age that you wanted to retire?
When I was young, I always said I would retire when I was 40.
Okay.
And I was in my 39th year. And I got the business to where it was making plenty of money, and I was able to pay myself a decent salary and not have to work. So it's coupled with when I was a kindergartner needing to prove some stuff. And then I told myself I would do this by the time I was 40. And so anyway, coupled with that, and that I became totally overweight. I was an athlete. So going back to kindergarten and needing to prove things, I wrestled varsity. I looked better than any of my friends in high school and college. And when I was in track and field, I set more school records than anyone ever have set school records. So I had school records in 6 different events, and you're only ever even allowed to do 4 events at four different types of things in one meet. And so the fact that you have school records and state records is interesting, because like most people don't do that, but I always pushed myself because I had something to prove. But I also was healthy and fit. And then I had my kids, and then I was drinking beer, and I wasn't working out as much. And this really ties in really well, I think, for our listener and for today's topic, because I wanted my business to grow at the expense of my health and at the expense of my relationships. And so that's when in 2018, as I mentioned before, I was completely overweight. I couldn't hardly sit up in bed. Like when I would wake up, I couldn't get up because my gut was in the way. And my son called me fat, and I wasn't really treating my kids as well as I could. I was busy. I was working 60 to 120 hours in a week.
Right.
And wasn't putting any time into, for example, reading books, wasn't putting any time into my health, my fitness, getting outside, my mental health, like loving myself, taking time to decompress, never was going on vacations. I just was working my A off. And as I'm doing all of this and getting fat, and my kid calling me fat, and I'm thinking to myself, all I'm doing really is making money. And it's, what is it for? Like, what's the point? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to start focusing on my health. So I built the business to a place. I started focused on, for example, with my kids, every single Wednesday, we exercise together. So we will go to CrossFit, and I'll pay for a private lesson, and we'll all just do exercise every Wednesday. Every Thursday is game night. So we always focus on playing games. So it'll be my turn to pick. And today is my oldest son's turn to pick. Today's Thursday, by the way.
Yeah.
So tonight's going to be game night. And so it's my oldest son's turn to pick. So every single Thursday, they know we do game night. Every single Friday is movie night. So we either go to the movies or we rent a movie and watch it at the house. And every Saturday, we go and do something fun and memorable. We'll go river rafting, or we will go to the amusement park, or last week we did pinball. And so we always do something. We always do something fun, skiing or whatever it is. And so I started being intentional with the time that I spent with my kids. It went from, I'm on the phone, I'm working extra hours, and they come and they want to show me something. And I'm like, not now, I'm busy, not now, I'm busy. And really, ultimately, I never had the time for them. And so I started step by step, putting my phone down, keeping it in the other room, making it where even if it's game night, we might just do 5 minutes. We might just play a short game, but we do it every single Thursday. So start making those things intentional. I wasn't really working out as much because I was focused on the business. So I said, I'm going to start focusing on the business. So that's when I grew the team. Instead of doing everything myself and making a medium amount of money, I started hiring until we got to the 37 people that we had for a couple of years straight without fail. We never lost or gained any in those couple of years. And what was interesting is as I built the team, I worked less, but I made a lot more money. So for example, I may have started out by paying myself 15 grand a month. And then all of a sudden I add a couple of employees and now I can pay myself 20,000 a month. And then I add a couple of employees and I'm paying myself 35,000 a month. And I add a couple of employees that keep increasing the amount of money, the revenue that I can make and generate. And it was interesting. So I started hiring coaches to get down to, in my 40th year, I got down to 6-pack lean. So first time I ever had a 6-pack. I had a 4-pack when I was 12.
Right.
This is the first time I ever had a 6-pack or 8-pack. So I hired that coach, got down to 6-pack lean, hired a bodybuilding coach and did something that I always wanted to do, is get on stage with a Speedo. I don't know why you would say that you wanted to do that, but I did when I was a kid. And so I said, hey, I'm going to do this. And I never traveled. So I said, hey, every other weekend, I don't have the kids. Oh, I should have said Friday's always movie night. Saturday's always a fun thing. Every other week, because I only have them half the time. Okay. So I should have said that. So when I have them, we always do that. When I don't have them, I'm always traveling somewhere because I never got that opportunity. Right. I was born on a polygamous colony. I think I mentioned that in the beginning. And I never got a birth certificate in my first few years, which meant it was almost impossible for me to get my passport. Right. So it took me a lot of effort to get a passport. So I finally got it, and trying to just use it every other week, just for a few days. Like I didn't even need it this week. We were in Maui, but it's still traveling as much as possible to see the world and relax and have some Zen. I think it's important for all of us. Maybe not that frequently, but I had a lot of catching up to do because I didn't get the passport until later on in my life. So anyway,
you ended up just being a paycheck, didn't you? Or not a business check. You know what I mean? Like you just became that paycheck that every week, every month came in, and that was your identity. That was everything about you.
Yeah. So I just stopped working, and I would still do my podcasts. So that would be about an hour and a half a week, because I went down to 2 episodes a week from 6. When I retired, I put in quotes to retire because I'm still working like 2 to 4, 6 hours a week sometimes. Right. But because I would do the podcast, which would take about an hour and a half-ish a week. And then I would do like 1 or 2 discovery calls, which would be about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour per week. And then other than that, I might just meet the team to check in on some stuff. And anyway, I'm going to pause, and I'm going to let you ask whatever you want, because I don't want to go too far off of a tangent.
Where do we go from here? You've got health, you've got family, you've got business, you've got travel. There's so many different directions. Let me just think. Let's prioritize the health just for now.
Cool.
So for you, putting that weight on and building up the weight, and it is hard. Like I probably carry a little bit more weight than I should, and sometimes my kids are brutally honest with me. They're 7 and 9-year-old girls, and you're just like, okay. So, and the other thing that I also like, I was very lean in my teenage years into my 20s. It was really only, I don't know, I can't blame it on the kids, but you get a little bit older and you start.
Actually, can I interrupt on that?
Yeah, go for it.
It's literally the kid's fault. There is science that proves that once you have children, our hormones as men switch a little bit toward not producing as much testosterone, and actually producing more estrogen.
Right.
So we start growing in places we don't want to grow.
Yeah.
And it's literally because our bodies are trying to be more compassionate and understanding in a way that's more feminine. And it is interesting because it literally does work, whether we're drinking alcohol or not. Now, drinking alcohol is going to improve it or make it go faster. Yeah. But our hormones, it's proven that once we have kids, and the more that we spend time with the kids, and I'm not trying to say to anybody that we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all.
No.
I'm just saying, like, actually it makes it harder for men to keep looking like men. When we have kids, we have to spend that extra time to go to the gym. We have to spend the extra time to go outside, outdoors to get those vitamins. We have to spend the extra time with masculine energy with our partner, no matter what, like we got to spend that time focusing on some of the more primal parts of our nature. If we want to continue to be more, let's say, manly, or have that additional testosterone going through our body, which is actually super beneficial as well. It helps us sleep and so much more. Sorry to interrupt you. It's your freaking kid's fault. That's why.
And I've got 2 girls, so the estrogen in my house is off the chart. But something that I've realized, because I was exercising 3 times a week in the gym when I was working in corporate, but I was never losing a lot of weight, and I really struggled with like, what more can I do? I was doing light weights, I was doing cardio, but couldn't shift it. And actually a big realization for me was diet is the actual key. Like, yes, it's good for lots of different reasons to exercise, not just physical health but mental health and being outdoors, as you say, the vitamin D and all that good stuff. But actually diet is, and you were saying you were drinking a lot of beer, like, what's your view on the role of diet when it comes to these experiences?
It's honestly hard to portray it in a short sentence, because diet's incredibly important, honestly. And it's also not the most important. So just to give you an idea, I hired that one person who got me to 6-pack lean.
Right.
The things that he did, and these are good takeaways for you and for the listener, and for me to remember as well.
Yeah.
Here's some things. You should focus on some type of macro diet. That means a certain amount of calories that come from protein, a certain amount of calories that come from carbohydrates, and a certain amount that come from fat.
Yeah.
The protein is anabolic. It boosts testosterone. The protein repairs muscle. So if you're working out and you're having enough protein, you'll repair muscle. Protein helps to preserve muscle. So if you're not working out and you don't want to lose your muscle, then you need to have that protein. Scientific, like this is a fact. The carbohydrates give you energy. The carbohydrates fill your muscles with water, which is a good thing because they look bigger, they look stronger, and also you can use them longer. So the carbohydrates are the thing that prolongs you, keeps you going. And a lot of people are doing these keto diets where or carnivore diets where they completely avoid all carbohydrates. This is not long lasting. It can be beneficial to avoid carbohydrates for a short time. That's fine. If you want to do that, you can. Like, some people are better than others, but the point is you actually need the carbs, and you can have you can stay healthy and fit for a long time. So the carbs are actually good. I would not avoid them like most people are trying to tell you. And then the fat is good. A lot of us are like, oh, I can't eat fat because then I'll get fat. The fat doesn't make you fat. The calories make you fat. And there is a lot of calories in fat, but also fat, like eating some animal fats and some healthy fats, omegas and things like that, they change our hormones, just like having kids can change our hormones, just like seeing a beautiful woman can change our hormones and things like that. Like, these actually do happen. And the same thing with the fat. The fat supports men and women with their body's natural hormonal function.
Right.
So that they can have a higher metabolism, so that their sex hormones, reproductive hormones can work better. You need to be eating some of these fats.
Yeah.
So people are like avoiding different things, and you need them all. And you just want to do it smart, where you are thinking of doing a certain amount of proteins, fats, and carbs. And if you're doing that, you're going to be fine. Rather than overeating on one or the other, then you can change a lot of different things where your hormones will go up or down, where you're going to get fatter or less fat, where you're going to look like the other gender or not. there's a lot that can happen.
Mm.
So if you eat maintenance calories, this is basically, I'm burning 2,200 calories a day. I'm going to eat about 2,200. Great. That keeps you sustainable.
Yeah.
If I want to gain weight, then you probably want to add an extra 200 to 500 calories a day. So you can be in a calorie surplus. So now you can grow. Whether you want to grow your fat or grow your muscle, that part is the exercise and the types of calories you have, but the total calories will have you growing either fat or muscle. And then going to a calorie deficit where you're eating a little bit less than what you are burning naturally, then you will slowly lose weight. Now, it will normally come first from your fat, unless your hormones are off. It'll normally pull from your fat first. Or if you don't have any fat left, or if you're doing it wrong or not exercising or doing the wrong type of exercise, like too much cardio, you can get too much high intensity cardio.
Yeah.
And what's going to end up happening is your muscles are going to get smaller because your body freaks out. You have too much cortisol. You have too much stress hormones. And those stress hormones say, all right, we need to shed some weight. We're not really using these muscles the way that we need to. So let's burn the muscle and let's keep the fat because now I can protect myself longer. So anyway, it's super, super interesting. If we're trying to say like, what is the more important thing? Is it the diet or is it the exercise? Unfortunately, it's both. A lot of people argue that it's more diet. I don't think so. I think it's also what we do in our workouts. So you were saying that you were working out 3 days a week and it wasn't really working and you were doing lots of cardio.
Yeah.
Here's what my first coach taught me. Now I got with one coach in order to get me 6-pack lean. I got with the next coach to get me bodybuilding ready on a show. And I got the third coach, which is for strength. So I can get stronger. I don't care how I look, if I'm fat or if I'm strong. Sorry, if I'm fat or am I skinny or if I have big muscles or small muscles. My goal today with working with this third coach is how strong can I be? And so I'm eating that type of diet. So I've learned a lot through these different people. And the point would be, if you're working out 3 days a week, I would want you to spend 30 to 40 minutes in the gym doing strength training, where you do some type of split. You might do upper body on Monday, lower body on Wednesday, and full body on Friday. This is if it's a 3-day split, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
And for your cardio, you can do probably the best thing for the best hormones to be able to give you the best results is walking. It sounds ridiculous.
No,
my coach told me that, and I'm like, I'll just run. Running burns so many more calories, but it stresses you out. And so your body holds on to the fat. It's so weird. Your body lets go of muscle and holds on to fat because you're running. And I'm going to get hate mail for this because it's not common knowledge. Not everybody knows. But if you do your cardio is super, super low intense and just do 8 to 12,000 steps a day, that means, I don't know it specifically in kilometers, but I'll say in miles.
We do miles.
That's basically walking 6 to 8 miles a day.
Yeah.
So you want to be intentional to like wake up in the morning, go for a walk around maybe try to do a mile or two. And then at lunch, maybe I've got a treadmill desk that I'm on right now.
Right.
And a lot of the times I'll work on a treadmill desk, or I'll watch TV with my kids on movie night on Friday nights. And I'll be on my I have got a treadmill in front of the TV too.
Right.
So that I don't have to just be sitting there eating food. I can walk on the treadmill quietly and watch a movie with them. And so it's like, you would want to do strength training 3 days a week, and it could be short, 30 to 40 minutes. And then you would want to be doing cardio, but not the type that other people think, not running, not mountain biking, not high intensity, just go on a walk.
Yeah.
Just get your steps in. And that's what shredded me, like completely shredded me. And then when I hired my next coach, this is a good takeaway. What's the word for it? My metabolism completely slowed down because I was eating less calories. And so what my other coach did is for a certain amount of time, he gorged me with a ton of calories. He put me to a lot of work, and this boosted my metabolism. And then he slowly added a little bit more cardio and took away a little bit more calories so that I could actually burn that fat. So if you just eat a small amount, you change your metabolism to slow it down, and you won't always be losing weight. You have to go on what's called like a diet break, where you teach your body to get back into that, your metabolism can speed back up, or else you're not going to lose the weight with those calories.
So something I've learned from my perspective, diet is important more than I thought it was. You can't necessarily run yourself thin. Cardio just only is not the only solution. I thought that was the only solution. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. But actually in the last weeks, like months or so, upping my steps has really helped me, because getting out as well, being in the open air rather than just being in the gym, is a massive change. And so upping the steps, I think, is super important. And I'm glad you're supporting that, because I actually feel a lot better, a lot healthier. I'm a lot more, I don't have lulls in where I get the afternoon nap time. Is like, never really did it, but it, like, I don't have that lull that I need a cup of coffee after lunch or anything like that. So I think it's super important, and I really appreciate you going into so much depth about that. I think from a business owner point of view, often people neglect their health, and as I said, they're just a paycheck to their family, to whoever. And I think it is super important. I really think it's been an absolute eye-opener, which I've absolutely loved speaking to you today about people's health. And I think it's something that all entrepreneurs, it's our responsibility as entrepreneurs to be as healthy as we can be, because you've got 30, what do you say, 31, 34 employees. You've got responsibilities of your family. You need longevity of your life is important for so many different reasons, for yourself, for your family, for your business. So I think it's something that we should be all talking about as business owners and entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for the time that we've spent today. I would love to get you on for a part 2 where we can actually deep dive into your business as well. So if you're open to have that second episode where we can talk about your business, that would be an absolute pleasure. So yeah, so thank you, Adam. It's been an eye-opener for me as well. I've learned some stuff here today about health, and it is, as I just said, it's super important for all of us to do that. So thank you for part 1. Thank you so much for that. Part 2, we'll get in the diary and we'll get you on to talk about how you've moved from retirement back into the game. Because just one last question before we go. Did you miss the game? Did you miss being an entrepreneur, being retired?
No, not really.
No. Oh, that's
I'm being
interesting,
honest.
because I actually think I would miss
I got to a place where I always wanted to grow. And then I just like came to some realization that none of that stuff really matters that much. Like, I was plenty big. My company was making plenty of money. Like, I didn't need to go to 1,000 clients, because if I wanted to go there, then I would have to work harder, and then my lifestyle would change. And I think it's good to have a good business, in which you need employees probably for that.
Yeah.
That can mostly run itself. And to have you to be able to focus on some other parts of your life that are important. So not really, like, definitely taking business seriously, definitely, but not trying to overwork yourself at the expense of your health or your relationships, which is what I did. So I was good doing it like that. And that's where I'm going to build it right back up.
Amazing. Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much for part 1.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I'll speak to you soon.
See you soon.
Well, wow, that went into an unexpected for the new format. So we didn't talk that much about business, and we talked about health for a lot of the show. And I said it right at the end, and I really do mean this. Longevity of life is so important for yourself, for your family, and for your business as well. And all the relationships that you have surrounding that, in business, in family, in colleagues, in friends. So I think it's super important. I'm going to listen to this episode again and really think about that, about my diet. Something I'm exploring, and upping my step count is something that I've prioritized and I think is super important. And I've got a dog as well, so it fits two purposes really well. So that's something that I'm doing, and hopefully you've got something from this episode. As I say, it's a real curveball. I wasn't expecting to go down that angle. But that whole idea of getting your health right for your business is so important. There's no point in being overweight and tired and groggy and irritable for you, for your employees, for your friends, your family, and people that you work with. So, as I say, I'm looking forward to part 2 with Adam, to talk a little bit more about his business, understand where that growth has been previously, before the retirement stage, and then where it's going to go now that he's come back into the business and looking to grow that in a super way. So yeah, that was totally unexpected. I absolutely loved it. Hopefully you've got some value from that as well. And I really do appreciate you guys listening to and watching the show. So thank you so much for your time, and on to the next one.
Thank you for listening to Business Growth Talks. This podcast is released every Monday, so don't miss an episode by subscribing to all podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. Have a great day.